Moonbeam launching in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Welcome to Moonbeam Radio, the #1 source for breaking news, current events, and social commentary. I'm your host, Jay Daniel. This is episode S322. Happy Rama East over. Thank you for your time and attention. Your ear gates, eye gates, and heart gate, you are appreciated. Now, if you're new to the show, welcome. And if you're a longtime supporter, welcome back. Now, this week we'll discuss the Derrick Chauvin case, the Capitol vehicle attack, MLB protest, CDC travel, Matt Gaetz, radioactive waste, and tax changes. This portion of our broadcast is brought to you in part by Junemoonmeadia Group, custom DJ services including personalized mixes and virtual hostings for all occasions. Pricing deals going on now. For all inquiries, email us at junemoonmediagroup@gmail.com. So you can follow me on Instagram at Moonbeam Radio or on Facebook at J Daniel. That would be Jay Daniel. Please like, share, subscribe, hit the thumbs up on this video. It helps out the algorithm so that Moonbeam Radio will be featured to more viewers and listeners. So thank you. So we have to talk about it this week. Derrick Chauvin case started. I'm sure that you're aware of that. But we have to remove emotion and review some of the highlights and lowlights depending on how you see fit. So one thing that I noticed from off the top was that count of 8 minutes and 46 seconds. That has been changed now and updated to 9 minutes and 29 seconds. So that was a little alarming to me, off-putting, but these are things that are uncovered during a drawn-out case trial process, right? Now, there have been a total of 19 witnesses called. Did you know that? Now, you also had testimonies from David Pluger, who was the former shift supervisor for Chauvin, right? And you had Richard Zimmerman, who was the longest serving officer in the Minneapolis PD. Now, both of those gentlemen testified and stated that the use of force was totally unnecessary, as Floyd didn't pose a threat. You also have Chauvin's body cam was released. In that video, there was a conversation between him and I believe it's Plug, right? His shift supervisor. But in the conversation, he never mentions threat, George Floyd as a threat. He said that he was, acting crazy. But it wasn't truthful as to, in hindsight, what happened prior to his phone call, right? You also had the store clerk who was checking for fake bills that called the police. Yeah, he took the stand. I was very remorseful. But that's because this man is dead. This is a classic case of I was doing my job. And then he got to watch out of his job window a man being murdered by the police. And he feels bad about that. And rightfully so. It's not his fault that George Floyd is dead. However, he helped to call the death upon him, right? You also had George Floyd's girlfriend took the stand. the 911 operator that took the initial Floyd call. A paramedic was also denied by police to give medical treatment. A lot of things are being dropped and thrown at us with this trial. And you have the defense, their whole angle is to use George Floyd's previous drug use and underlying health conditions as justification for murder. You have to understand that. But remember that Derrick Chauvin is on trial, not George Floyd. Floyd was murdered by Chauvin. And that is what mainstream media keeps avoiding saying. Chauvin's up for murder, manslaughter, all those, charges. But he's on trial, not Mr. Floyd. So it doesn't matter what, the coroner and the medical examiner say about the toxicology report for Floyd. It doesn't matter. Fentanyl and him having a previous arrest record has nothing to do with now 9 minutes and 29 seconds of knee on the neck. Has nothing to do with it. How many girlfriends he's had, how many jobs he's had. And apparently there was some kind of beef between Chauvin and Floyd previously from some club they worked at together, doing security or whatever. Hinting at jealousy or other things but bottom line is these two had a history that makes it even more hellacious and disgusting at what he did. He murdered that man for other reasons than counterfeit bills or fentanyl or whatever else. It was personal. In my opinion, that murder on the streets, the public lynching of George Floyd is what is in question here. Officer Derrick Chauvin is on trial, not George Floyd. Mr. Floyd is dead because of Chauvin. You have to remember that and remove emotion when you watch this trial play out. Source here is Associated Press, the APnews.com. So a man identified as Noah Green of West Virginia rammed his car into two officers at a barricade outside the U.S. Capitol. One officer was killed. So the driver exits the crashed car with a knife in his hand and starts to run at the officers. He was then shot by police, those same officers at the barricade, right? 25-year-old Noah Green later dies at the hospital. Now, according to the Associated Press, Green had been suffering from delusions, paranoia, and suicidal thoughts. Now, investigators believe it was an isolated incident from a disturbed young man. That's what they're saying. Now, you have the National Guard in riot gear, hundreds of police officers patrolling, beefed up security for the Capitol, right? Where was all of this action on January 6th? Where was it? Are you trying to make up for the BS, the blown cover on January 6th? Noah Green, black man, one car, one driver. And in this case, okay, one knife. There's a knife to a gunfight. He's shot and killed. But you had on January 6th, a whole mob, a whole white mob showed up to the Capitol, gained access and entry to the building. No riot gear there. No shots fired, right? And miss me with that one woman that you killed. Compared to the numbers, the sheer numbers of the mob, the rioters, the insurgents, the shots, the deaths to the numbers of rioters that were there, that doesn't even match with what went on at the Capitol this week with this car. You see, you're giving off this energy. See, how is it okay on January 6th, right? You show restraint. And then this week, a lone wolf, as it were, with alleged mental delusion, right? Suicidal thoughts. You kill him. But homie had his dirty boots on Nancy Pelosi's desk, taking selfies. They taking laptops. They're alive. Yapping to the captain. Black people, melanated people, you need to understand this. I realize it now. America doesn't care for black people. The Negro, right? African American, whatever you want to liken yourself, whatever you calling it. Your melanin is a problem. White supremacy reigns here in this land. And unfortunately, it's on the planet too, because other countries follow suit with whatever America is doing. White supremacy is a problem. You see, you killed that man. Mind you, granted, he ran his vehicle into a barricade. An officer dies. So sad for the officer dying on the job. But that is the job that he signed up for, right? To protect and serve. Now, you mean to tell me that you gentlemen were under that much stress and felt imminent danger with a man with a knife that you opened fire? You empty your service pistols into him? And this is all justified now with all of this police presence and the National Guard is there. We need to wake up. It's clear that you don't give a damn about melanated people. It's clear. It's an extermination on a mass scale. It's okay for law enforcement to do this. It's okay for them to still have sundown towns. It's okay to redline still, gentrification. Yes, I'm saying that there's an attack on black people. The question is, what do you do as a black person? What do you do because of that? What do you do? Voting ain't working. Rioting ain't working. Protests not working. Running your car into the Capitol ain't working. And this happened not too long ago before. It was a black woman. They killed her too. So apparently, you can only be white or non-black, right? And do something on government property, federal property, and live. But what is a person to do when your voice isn't heard enough to matter with legislation and to not to be referred to as 3/5 as a person anymore. Because that's how we're treated. Again, this man's dead. One man, one car, one knife. Gone. But you had the insurgents that you're so still outraged about. The attack on the Capitol, January 6th. But they're alive. A grand majority of them. We're talking about a couple that aren't no longer here. You don't care. What I don't respect about it is that you won't say it. You do all these pandering games and sleight of hand. Oh, we're going to help. We're going to do this. We're going to do that for you, and then don't do a damn thing. Oh, the tragedy. Miss me with that. It's empty. But you don't care. Gil Scott-Heron. The revolution will not be televised. It's okay for all these white militia groups to gather. The Proud Boys, the Klan. But you saw what they did to the Panther Party. We watched what happened to Brother Malcolm, Dr. King. We also watched what you did to Jesse Jackson. Jesse's alive, but he hasn't been relevant in the community for a long time. Bought and sold. Mr. Sharpton as well. Bought and sold. And there's grumblings of the same happening with Black Lives Matter and Tamika Mallory. But anytime black people get together to further as a race, as a people, as a collective, it's infiltrated and dismantled from within. It's the only group. But I'm disgusted by the treatment of black people in this country. The disrespect. When will it end? Scratch that. It's going to end when you say so. Source here, NBCnews.com. Major League Baseball has pulled this year's All-Star game out of Atlanta in protest of Georgia's new restrictive voting law. The game was set for July 13th at the Truist Park, which is the home of the Atlanta Braves. Now, the annual MLB draft was also pulled. I have decided that the best way to demonstrate our values as a sport is by relocating this year's All-Star game and MLB draft. That's Commissioner David D. Manford Jr. said in a statement. Major League Baseball fundamentally supports voting rights for all Americans and opposes restrictions to the ballot box. Now, this wouldn't be complete without a word from Georgia Governor Brian Kemp. He claps back with Georgians and all Americans should fully understand that the MLB's knee-jerk decision means cancel culture and woke political activists are coming for every aspect of your life, sports included. He said that in a statement. If the left doesn't agree with you, facts and the truth do not matter. Mr. Kemp, that's cool. But you supported Donald Trump as well. And the facts didn't matter with him. See, that's right there is a Republican talking point. Now, I'm not a Democrat or Republican. I'm not either one. I'm pointing out the ridiculousness of one can do it blind eye, but the other party does it. Oh, it's World War III. Indict them on everything. You're talking the same stuff. Now, MLB is finalizing a new host city, and details about these events will be announced. That was according to Manfred. Now, the All-Star Game had some festivities that include Henry Aaron, the legendary Braves slugger who died earlier in the year at 86 he had COVID vaccine issues, complications. But they're still planning on having a tribute to him and whatever other festivities, celebrations that went along with the All-Star Game. They're still going to have it, but they're going to relocate. They don't have a host city yet. But an issue with this is now that the Major League Baseball has done this, baseball, sports as a whole, we can look at it as a whole, is becoming political. And that's not what it's designed. It's not how it's designed to be. It is actually a distraction, an escape from reality of sorts, right? But now it's becoming political. But nonetheless, they have pulled the All-Star Game. And you have Atlanta Mayor Keisha Lance Bottoms, who is all for it, which is fine. But what's next? You see, he mentioned it there, that cancel culture is not just a right or left wing thing. That's a societal thing. And it's out of hand. You got to get a handle on it, though. It's not too out of control where you can't rein it in. But in a minute, it will be. It will be the point of no return. If you can move the All-Star Game, a sporting event, what's next? So you're going to have super PACs for these MLB, these sporting leagues. You're going to have super PACs for them too. Very interesting. But nonetheless, this game is not going to be in Atlanta. MLB has put their foot down, and it's got a lot of traction. It's hashtagging all over social media. They keep an eye on it. CDC.gov. So the CDC has updated its domestic travel guidelines. Would you like to hear them? Fully vaccinated travelers are less likely to get and spread COVID-19. People who are fully vaccinated with an FDA-authorized vaccine can travel safely within the United States. Fully vaccinated travelers do not need to get tested before or after travel unless their destination requires it. Fully vaccinated travelers do not need to self-quarantine, but they should still follow CDC's recommendations for traveling safely, which includes wearing a mask over your nose and mouth, 6 feet, avoid crowds, wash your hands frequently, or use hand sanitizers, right? Now, if you are vaccinated, why do you need a mask? Think about that. If it does not prevent you, this vaccine does not prevent you from getting the virus, the gooch, or spreading the virus, the gooch, doesn't keep you from getting the regular or a variant version, why are you getting a vaccine? What's the benefit of it? But again, if you are vaccinated, why do you still need a mask? Now you have New Mexico is leading the charge in terms of herd immunity. 50% of adults have had at least one dose. 32% of the total population is fully vaccinated. Now, mind you, all of this is happening in New Mexico, where they are the 5th highest poverty rate in the nation. Did you know that? Now, we also have to be aware of a COVID passport, right? Or what's known as a digital certification of vaccine status, something like that. Now, this is on the way. Oh, yes, it is. So much so that the Biden administration has committed to the concept of vaccine passports and is pushing the Department of Health and Human Services to set standards. Are you for this? Are you okay with having a passport of sorts, whatever you want to call it, a digital whatever, telling if you have been vaccinated or not, if you're deemed safe or not for entry into the venue, the city, the state, right? The region, your neighborhood. Are you okay with that? Because it's coming, and it's coming in a hurry, and it's being pushed by your president. And he hasn't gotten much resistance, anything that has to deal with this virus and or vaccine. But that's what they're pushing. And New Mexico is a smaller populated state, but it's getting the job done. So it makes you take a look at these bigger markets, these bigger cities that are having trouble rolling out, keeping stockpiles high, supplies up. That's not just from pure numbers. That's a management issue. So what's really going on if New Mexico can handle it? Source here is NewYorkTimes.com, CNBC.com. So we have a House Rep, Matt Gaetz, is the Florida Republican being investigated by the Justice Department over sex trafficking allegations. He's been a defender of President Donald Trump. Now, behind the scenes, you have Gaetz has been alleged to brag to his colleagues about his relationships with women. He's allegedly showed off to other lawmakers photos, videos of new women, he said, he slept with, including doing so while on the House floor. Now, the sources, including two people directly shown the material, said Gaetz displayed the images of the women on his phone and talked about having sex with them. One of the videos showed a naked woman with a hula hoop, according to the source. Now, him talking about his conquests with women, whatever, right? He's doing it at work. He happens to work on Capitol Hill. They're making a big deal about him doing this on the House floor. Not my concern. But let's look at this sex trafficking thing. That's my concern here. So the Department of Justice is investigating whether Gaetz had a sexual relationship with a 17-year-old girl and paid for her travels with him. That's my concern. Now, 17, what they're painting this as, traveling state lines with her, interstate, right? Meaning if he went from Florida to Georgia with her or somewhere else, that constitutes trafficking. So when you put sex trafficker out there, listen, Matt Gaetz with that description is not the same thing as Epstein and Maxwell. Those are sex traffickers. Not this what he's talking about with Matt Gaetz. I'm not caping for him, but objectively speaking, cut it out. And this furthermore pushes the point that there should be a universal age of consent with all of this. Because they're upset with him with prostitution. Listen, he allegedly paid some adult women to have some relations with him. But they're adults. Let them do what they want to do. But this thing with this minor, and of course she's probably not a minor anymore, right? But he's under investigation. He should know better than to deal with an underage girl. I'm going to go as far as to say he does know better. But the tax bracket that he currently is in provides him with immunity to some point. I don't know who he upset, because now we know about it. That's how it works. So Gaetz is 38. You know, he's a close ally of Donald Trump. Now, he has denied the reported allegations against him. His thing is, he's saying that he's being threatened in a $25 million organized crime extortion scheme. Mr. Gaetz, I don't believe you. You need more people. I think that's a clever way to cover up and divert attention away from you having this inappropriate, illicit sexual relationship with a 17-year-old minor. We could call it a child. I wouldn't say he's trafficking, but okay. According to the law, right? But he ought to know better. And you mean to tell me, with your social status, Capitol Hill status, you couldn't find some adult woman to do these things with? It's ridiculous. Well, I'll tell you, this weekend I watched, HBO Max has this documentary up. It's a few parts. I only watched the first part about Mia Farrow and Woody Allen. Talk about a messy mindset there. Pedophile. I got no love for pedophiles. You got to protect these babies, these peanuts at all costs. But I could only watch an hour of it before it was just so murky and I felt violated. Yet and still, he's still out here making films, free, marries his adopted daughter. Weird. But he's regarded as one of the greatest minds of the 20th century. We sick. Humanity, sick. So anybody who wants to deal with underage anything, something's a little off. You need a mental evaluation. R. Kelly, same thing. Bill Cosby, same thing. There's something off. Bill Cosby was of age, but still the kink there of drugging women and having them passed out. It's weird. Something's off in the brain there. Way past the imbalance. A chemical imbalance. We passed that. Like Jay-Z said, we passed kneeling. Well, he's past feeling. But nonetheless, they're trying to put Gaetz here as trafficking. Now, I think you could come up with something else to stick to him because you want him. But who he upset? Who did he piss off, right? And with this whole $25 million organized crime or extortion scheme, nobody's buying that, homie. At least I'm not. But what do you think? You think he's being extorted? You think that, would you label him as a child trafficker? No right or wrong answer. It's up to you. I'm just posing the question. TheGuardian.com is the source here. So there's an emergency in Florida. There's a phosphate plant pond that leaked, threatens radioactive flood. So according to officials, it is no longer safe to be anywhere near Piney Point. Anybody near Piney Point? I hope not. Millions of gallons of wastewater contain radium and uranium. The levels have been found there. Now, Florida Governor Ron DeSantis declared a state of emergency after a significant leak at the large pond, right? Which is the Piney Point. It had phosphorus mined, threatened to burst a system that stores water polluted with radioactive materials. So more than 300 homes have been evacuated and closed off this highway near the large reservoir in the Tampa Bay area. Residents who live in or around the Piney Point Reservoir received an alert, a text alert saying to leave the area immediately because the collapse was imminent. Now, authorities expanded the evacuation area later on Saturday to include more homes, but said that they were not planning to open shelters. Now, the State Department of Environmental Protection said a break was detected on Friday in one of the walls of the 77-acre pond that has a depth of 25 feet and holds millions of gallons of water. Now, all this water contains phosphorus and nitrogen from the old phosphate plant. Dangerous times we live in. We're talking about nuclear war and rumors of it. But you got phosphorus plants, not the green plants. These are these big structures, a plant, right? Infrastructure there. Churning out all this waste. And he is holding it. Well, now it's leaking into water. It's making it unsafe. All this is a beacon to show that we are ruining this planet. Just because you can or it's available doesn't mean you should or you should take it. You should do it. We need to seriously evaluate what we're doing on this planet. Talk about climate change, the ice cap, the polar ice caps. They don't talk about it too much now, but you have the ozone layer, right? We don't talk about it anymore. Smog. But we're killing the planet. But all these people had to be evacuated because of the imminent threat of radioactive waste. Think about radioactive as the turtles, right? The mutant ninja turtles. Radioactive, mutagenic ooze. Now that's a cartoon and that's kid-based, okay. But the ooze, well, think about that as the waste that's coming out of this plant. Going into the water, high levels of nitrogen, phosphate, stuff that'll melt you. This is what's going in the water. We have to really evaluate climate change and what we're doing on this planet. Because if this continues, we're not going to have a home. Maybe that's why they're using SpaceX and all these other shuttles and NASA and trying to find other planets to go to. Because this one seems to be doomed at the rate of that we're going. Source here is the Wall Street Journal, which is WSJ.com. President Biden, need to have a word. We need to talk. Why you keep coming at Biden? Because I'm looking at what he's doing. He wants to increase taxes on the rich. Well, is this a good thing? Really? Now, before you answer, consider this. Biden's corporate tax increase alone is more than $1.5 trillion over 10 years, with another $1.5 trillion coming soon on an individual income and investment. That's about $300 billion a year. This makes Biden's plan the largest increase since 1968. That's a whole fact. Now, Mr. Biden's corporate increase amounts to the restoration of the Obama corporate tax problem. Now, the 2017 tax reform was designed to fix a corporate tax system that was uncompetitive and convoluted. Now, companies paid taxes in countries where they earned the income. But then again, if they returned the money to the U.S. trillions of dollars piled up overseas. So remember the string of corporate, inversions and all that when CEOs moved the headquarters and outsourced, right? They just moved everything over, right? You remember all of that. You're still feeling the effects of that. Now, another issue with raising taxes is this. The middle class foots the bill. You have inflation, which is a general increase in prices and fall in the purchasing value of money. Inflation. And then you also have hyperinflation, which is rapid, excessive, and out of control general price increases in the economy. Now, while inflation is a measure of the pace of rising prices for goods and services, hyperinflation is rapidly rising inflation, typically measuring more than 50% per month. When you raise the prices of these corporations, these Fortune 500 companies, the 1%, right? It looks good. But what happens is they lay off people. In a lot of cases, they lay off people, or to offset the taxes that they have to pay, they raise their prices. So it doesn't really help because then the people that buy those products have to pay a higher premium for those same products. The product didn't get better or worse. The price went up. Now, I agree that something should be done for taxes to be more level and income based. But simply raising the taxes hurts the people. It can't just be the one thing. Oh, we're just going to raise the tax. It's probably a string, 5 or 6 other things that need to work in concert with raising the taxes. I don't know how all that works. I don't even know what to suggest there. I can just tell you what I'm looking at, what I'm seeing. Just raising the price, raising the taxes, homie, is not the way to go about doing business. President Biden. So I know, raising taxes on the rich, he gonna stick it to them. Well, yeah, he gonna stick it to them and then they're gonna stick it to us. Why do you have to stick it to anybody? Why can't it just be, this is a more fair way of doing business, and this is how we're going to give it up? Boom. But that's not what it is. It's always the get-over system It looks good. I urge you to do that with anything, especially in these headlines. Look at it, remove the emotion from it, and do a little dig around for it to find out what's really being said, what's really being done. And at the same time, if that's too much for you, you can have me do it and tune in every week. That's my purpose for doing this program, this broadcast. There's a lot of things that go on during the week that mainstream may not cover. Sometimes they do, or they don't do it enough. They don't go to enough in depth for you, or you just simply don't have the time. But I appreciate you, and this is why I do what I do. I'll give it to you if they won't. But simply raising taxes isn't going to help us financially get out of the hole we're in. There isn't a one-shot deal way to go about this. And that's my issue with President Joe Biden raising the taxes. In the case of Derrick Chauvin, 8 minutes and 45 seconds has been changed to 9 minutes and 29 seconds. Police witnesses say use of force was totally unnecessary. Floyd's past drug use has been questioned. Remember, Derrick Chauvin is on trial, not George Floyd. Noah Green rammed his car into a barricade outside the U.S. Capitol. One officer was killed. Noah Green was shot and killed by police. Where was this same energy for the insurgents on January 6th? Is this racial? Major League Baseball has pulled this year's All-Star Game and Draft out of Atlanta in protest of Georgia's new restrictive voting law. Georgia Governor Brian Kemp clapped back. Will more corporations follow suit? CDC has updated its domestic travel guidelines. Fully vaccinated travelers do not need to get tested before or after travel. Would you support the use of a COVID passport system? Florida Representative Matt Gaetz is being investigated by the Justice Department over sex trafficking allegations. He's been a staunch defender of President Donald Trump. Gaetz has bragged to his colleagues about relationships with women. He's claiming extortion. What do you think? It's no longer safe to be anywhere near Piney Point. Millions of gallons of water, wastewater containing radium and uranium. 300 homes evacuated and closed off in the Tampa Bay area. Love and light to those dealing with this crisis. President Joe Biden wants to increase taxes on the rich. Inflation and hyperinflation come to mind. The middle class will pay in the end. You still think this is a good thing? If you would like to be a sponsor for the broadcast, send us an email at junemoonmediagroup@gmail.com. For all your streetwear apparel and sneakers, check out the homie GMK_YoungBolo on Instagram. I'm Jay Daniel. This has been Moonbeam Radio, the #1 source for news, current events, and social commentary. I'll see you next week. Take care.